All right. Hello and welcome back to Tantrums and Tangents, the talk show. I'm joined by Saberwolf.
Hey guys.
And yeah, so today our topic is tabletop games versus video games. I've been playing some old school games recently, and it's kind of interesting to see where sort of video games get their inspiration, and see how tabletop games have also progressed since the very beginning. So yeah, cool stuff. All right,
Hell
so
yeah.
yeah, because recently I've been playing like the original Fallout's as well as the Elder Scrolls Arena, and it's very interesting to see like in the Elder Scrolls Arena there's like some really odd stuff that like modern day doesn't make any sense. Like the first episode, one of the things I had was the armor class. And it says plus 10 if you don't wear any armor, which in our days, oh, that sounds great, plus 10. And it's green, right? But no,
Right.
no. Plus 10 means you're like plus 10 for the enemy to hit you. You actually want to go negative, and it's such a strange thing, but like that's how tabletop games were back in the day.
Yep. Yeah, that's a Advanced Dungeons and Dragons thing. Comes from a system they used called THACO, or to hit armor class 0.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was just sort of like, you need to roll X on the die in order to hit armor class 0, which was considered to be like the standard by which you wanted to like be armored.
Right, right. So is that like 50-50 or
It's not 50-50. It depends on how good you are with weapons. There's a chart you have to consult in order to get THACO right.
Oh my gosh, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, no, it gets a little bit silly sometimes.
No, totally, yeah.
But yeah, like there's people who have like not like straight up just complained about THACO, but like yeah, just there's stuff. There's baggage that comes along with THACO.
Right, right. But yeah, it's actually pretty cool too, because it's not just sort of the newer game, or sorry, the older games I'm playing, but the newer games too. If you think about it, Darkest Dungeon is really rolling dice all the time. Like if it was played physically, like you'd have 4 characters, and yeah, it's there you go, Torchbearer.
This is Darkest Dungeon, the role-playing game.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean it's pretty wild, but like there's a lot of RNG. Whenever you say RNG, it's just tabletop terms for whatever sided dice you're using.
Yeah. Yeah, so like for computer games, they generate a random number. That random number, usually like on a scale of 1 to 100, like determines outcomes of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
In tabletop games, you usually abstract that down a little bit. It's usually like so many in 20 or whatever, depending on what you're doing.
Right. Hey Chef Plague, how's it going?
Hey Chef. But yeah, there's some role playing games that use like the out of 100 system. Basic role play, or BRP, is you roll 2d10s, and one of them's the 10 value and one of them's the 1 value, and you get a percentage out of that.
Right.
People have also made 100 sided dice. They look kind of like golf balls. They're a little silly.
Yeah. You need a really flat table though in order to use those.
Right. You do.
Otherwise, it literally just rolls away.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so that's some of the stuff. Basic Roleplay is the system that like every edition of the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game that's come out. So
Oh, okay.
in a lot of ways, like playing Call of Cthulhu at like a table feels like playing Fallout 3.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Why is that?
Because it's just like it's like the inspiration for this. Well, my bad. Let me rephrase that. So Fallout 3 is slightly more advanced. It feels like playing Morrowind.
Right.
Because of like, roll D100 at your, or like, and you're trying to roll underneath a particular value. So the higher your skills are, the more range you have to succeed like accurately, because you want to roll low in that game.
Right, right. And Mirelurk's Chef Plague, yes.
Yeah, yeah, Mirelurks. And if we're talking about Morrowind, mud crabs, they're
Mud
big ass crabs.
Yeah, they're also, yeah. Except for the one that you don't want to kill that has 10,000 barter gold.
And if you kill him, it's gone.
It's gone. And it looks just like every other mud crab too, so it's almost like you have to go up to every mud crab and say hello, and then most of them pinch you.
Hello, mud crab. Pinch. Ow, bastard.
But yeah, it's very interesting because Morrowind is there's some people that I know that play more modern versions of the Elder Scrolls, and they can't get into Morrowind because it is a dice roll system. And it like I understand that completely. Like I have no problem with that. Like I know how that works. But yeah, it's pretty wild that it's really hard in the beginning, just like it would be hard in the beginning of a tabletop game. You basically have these lower level skills and you're completely relying on dice to do damage, to even hit something. And
Right.
you have to be successful in order to land the hits to get the experience. And it's all this tough grind that you have to do in the beginning.
Yeah. And that's true. And I don't know, somehow there's a disconnect with me and my experience gaming when it comes to like being shitty in the beginning and then being good later on, right?
Right.
Because like I think it's that, like, at least for me, when I'm playing a video game, I'm typically playing alone,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's difficult to like have fun when you just suck. But like when you're at a table with a bunch of friends and you suck, you can kind of turn that into like a fun joke, right?
No,
And
yeah.
because there's camaraderie between you and your friends, and well, presumably there is if you're playing with people you like to hang out with. And so like when you suck, if you keep sucking all the time, it just turns into like your character is like comic relief for everyone, and that can be fun if you're willing to like play along with the joke.
Right, because one of the things I noticed, at least when I play tabletop games, is sometimes you create like a personal backstory, and it sounds really fucking cool, but you're still only level 1. So like,
Yep.
There comes this awkward situation where it's like, I was a ranger that hit something from 1,000 paces and all this sort of stuff, and it's like, you critically missed and somehow shot yourself in the foot with an arrow. And then you have to be like, okay, then
Right.
you just have to accept it, and then you like forever. It's just this like sneering little joke in the party that like you have like the best ranger of all time, and he's got like a friggin' arrow in his foot.
Right. Now, you can, like, as a GM, you can enable somebody to still feel like a badass even though they're not succeeding at rolls. Like, you can make the opponent seem that much more badass if you keep failing. Because, like, and, like, here's the disconnect between, like, old school gaming and new school gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Or rather modern. There's not really a new school. But anyway, so you got old school gaming, and the assumption was that when you roll poorly, you did bad.
Right.
Like, that you weren't good at the thing you were doing. But there's this new mentality that goes on in like modern gaming theory, where it's not that your character sucks because they're supposed to be competent at like the things that they're good at,
Mm-hmm.
as per your backstory, as per their stats, whatever. If you roll poorly, it's that you didn't suck. It's just that the opposition or the thing that you're trying to do is really hard in that case.
Yeah. So for instance, we've been playing a lot of like Apocalypse World. And so if you fail a roll, it's not necessarily that you didn't hit somebody with your crazy bumper sword blade or anything like that. It's that you hit somebody with your sword, but they also got a hit on you. So it's more like an even trading of blows rather than you being like, whoops, and there goes my leg.
Right.
Which
And,
it
like,
used to be way more common in like older role-playing tabletop games.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still a thing that hangs around in like games nowadays. I'll get to a funny story about a Star Wars game I ran recently.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But before I do that, like there's also this thing like specifically in like the Powered by the Apocalypse games. Like so, say you are a crazy like raider berserker guy and you have a giant chainsaw and you go and like try to slice somebody up with it, but that guy has a knife. Like all rights are that you are going to just obliterate him. You rolled bad. It's not that you suck because you're a badass raider. You don't suck. That guy's just that much better than you thought.
Right. It's,
and like like wild melee swing at him with your chainsaw, and he like ducks underneath it, whips out his combat knife, and just stabs you in the guts. Right. And now he's just too close, and it's a bad position to be in.
Right. So there's a lot of misdirection and like misunderstanding what your opponent really is capable of.
Right. And misunderstanding is one of my favorite things to do for like knowledge checks, right? Like you're supposed to know this thing and you go to like roll, but you do bad. And it's not that you don't get information, you just get wrong information.
I love that because sometimes you come with this situation where it's like, all right, roll like an arcane knowledge check. And it's like, you got a 1. And then like the GM smiles and then tells you something. And then it's like, it's not that you don't know, it's that you've been fed really bad information and you believe it regardless. Like you can't go back and say, nope, that's a dumb idea. No, that is your idea.
That's your idea. That's what you think is a good choice. One of the things that I've been trying out recently while I've been GMing is to like tell you guys the truth and then like say, but you don't get that. Like you don't understand the truth right now. What do you think instead? And like just put that misunderstanding in your hands. I don't know how that's working out, but
I kind of like it though. I kind of like it.
Like I
as long as
because it lets you put a character on it.
Right. And as long as you're not like you don't have like a party that's bad at metagaming, then they can take that and be like, okay, so this is a funny misunderstanding of what my character thinks is actually happening.
Right.
Because if it was just metagaming, it would be like, well, how can I use this misinformation to somehow get close to my goal? And it's a lot of chin scratching that nobody wants to sit through.
Right. If you are perhaps referring to my kid brother. He's really bad about that still.
It's a tough thing because essentially it's like I know the answer, but I can't put it down.
Right. I can't rely on that being the answer because something like the dice said I can't.
Yeah. And same thing in video games, to be honest. There are plenty of times and situations where I wish I could play a game and forget literally everything I know about it and play it as if I was like some doughy-eyed little kid playing a game where I lop off people's heads or some shit. Probably not like that. Right. But anywho, like it's this weird thing where I'm making decisions now with my newer characters, with games I've played over and over again, based on the rewards I know that I'm going to get. So I'm like making builds like for characters to combat what I know the game's going to throw at me. Where usually the first time around it's like, well, I'm totally screwed and I have to invest a ton of time just to undo, the choices I made that were apparently bad choices.
Yeah. And yeah, that is definitely a excuse me.
We've angered the gods.
But yeah, like that's definitely a thing that not that I've struggled with video games, but that I've kind of like come to terms with video games. Mm-hmm. Like there is, because it's a system that is constant pretty much, there are ways to combat the game as a player to mitigate failure. Because oftentimes failing in a video game means the game is over, right?
Right. Yeah, you die, the game's over. Depending if it's roguelike or not, you either, just respawn at your last save or checkpoint. Or you lose everything and you have to start over.
Right. And now that lose everything and start over thing, that's an old like tabletop role playing game thing too. But yeah, like there's a way to play video games that is optimal, because you actually can't fail a video game without deciding to quit the game, right?
Right. Yeah, because if you have saves and checkpoints, you try things out, you test a few things.
Yeah.
In tabletop games, you don't really have that. Unless as a whole you decide to retcon something because something went so terribly wrong.
I don't think we've ever done that.
I don't think we've ever done that, because usually failing rolls, at least in tabletop games, lead to amazing stories that like even the GM never thought would happen.
Right.
There's your like, conflict. You know, in video games there is sort of this weird thing where conflict has to be made externally a little bit by the NPCs, and then it's your reactions that make them happen or not. Whereas you know, GMs also do very similar things, but there's this new level of, or at least I feel like a new level in tabletop games, where you screwing up causes different things to happen, which is absolutely incredible.
Hey, Ozzy.
And how's it going on?
But yeah, like absolutely, I know 100% what you're talking about. It's like in a video game where they're like, you're supposed to fail here.
Oh, yeah, like the impossible like fight or something like that, where like you're supposed to be captured, or like it's that moment where like doesn't matter how good your character is, the story's going to progress this way and it's going to force you.
Exactly. That used to happen a lot more in video games. I think it's stopped mostly now. Like whenever that's supposed to happen, they usually do that in like cutscenes.
I see it occasionally. But but it's one of those things, like most people have a bad reaction to it when it does happen. And I've definitely had that in tabletop games as well. Like the GM says this happens, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, "Oh man, I couldn't even roll for that."
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I know you know, but like I personally try to avoid situations like that where I'm just sitting here going like, yeah, I don't think you guys can actually win this. You guys just all fail, because I want to see how bad you guys fail. Generally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, tabletop games, we're mostly talking about RPG tabletop games.
Right.
Right.
So like Dungeons and Dragons, or like Ving and I have been talking about a game called Apocalypse World. There's a whole ton of them. Yeah. Actually, if anybody is interested in a game that is mature rated for adults who play tabletop games, and like similar like it's an old school game, so I'm just going to go ahead and post it here. It's called Lamentations of the Flame Princess. It's not for children, so anybody who wants to click on that, do it at your own risk. But it's awesome. It's not adult only. It's mature. There's lots of blood and nudity and sex and adult themes, but it's not like sex.
Right.
There was a game that was like generate your sex avatar and go out and fuck the world. The game. It was called Fatal, but it was awful. Do not play Fatal.
That sounds hilarious.
It was awful.
Like hilarious in like a bad way.
It's not a good game. Like there's a random table for your genitalia.
Oh, gotcha.
Actually, there are several random tables for your genitalia.
Right.
Yeah. Janara is not exaggerating.
Wow.
Anal circumference to see how big a dick you can take in it. Or exactly how much you can hide in it, if that's your thing.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Fatal, like, took that, trying to, like, apply, like, system and what's the word I'm looking for? Like simulationist like attitude, and like took it way too far.
Yeah. Seems like it.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
It's awful. Don't play it.
Hey, Quoscone.
Hey,
Yeah. Welcome to the talk show.
this is the stuff we talk about sometimes.
Oh gosh.
Oh man. But yes, Lamentations of the Flame Princess is not fatal.
No.
It is. It's different.
Now, like, just to step away from that for a second,
Sure.
I gotta say though, we played a tabletop game recently that I enjoyed the hell out of.
Oh, are you? Okay, go ahead.
It's the
Don't steal.
I don't know the actual name of it. Oh, there you go. The Fall of Magic, right? And that game was so fucking cool. The way it basically follows this story of there's the Magus, and they're like the source of magic, and you have to save them basically because magic is waning in the world. But what's so cool about it is that it's based off of a map. And basically you can actually see, yeah, bring it up. You can actually see the diverging paths of storyline based on what route you take. And it's so cool to see it as like a visual representation of like where the story's going to take you. And it is so badass. Yeah, there you go. So you like start there, and you can see like where your path would take you, and then it can diverge in two separate parts. And oh man, that game was so effing cool. I enjoyed that as much as I would a video game.
It's a pretty amazing thing. Like
Right.
it's
And what's weird is it's story based. So like there's
yeah.
minimal dice rolling.
Yeah, it's actual canvas. It absolutely is. It's hand screen printed. The metal tokens it comes with, they're just coins, are like are cast by a person who like just makes like artisan coins basically. It's got these fancy little like rivets
Nice.
on it. Yeah, it's incredible. I love this game.
Yeah.
And
And yeah, because the
map
multiple
doesn't actually work. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, because of the multiple sort of ways that you can go during a game, it does actually have replayability.
Sure does.
And in fact, there's expansions for it as well. And hey, Dirge, how's it going? Good to see you.
Hey, Dirge.
Yeah, we're talking about tabletop games versus video games. But yeah, I'm trying to think, like, what video game... I'm sure there's one out there where it takes a map and it uses that as its way to sort of tell a story and have you interact. And hey, XL, how's it going? But I can't think of one right away.
There's sort of a map mechanic in XCOM 2, but it's just sort of like, here is a map, you can go to these missions on it.
Right.
I mean, granted, like doing different missions like makes the story progress differently. Which is cool. I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the same.
Right. Like it's a pretty unique thing that I felt like I've played recently that I'm not saying can only happen on tabletop like games, but is definitely very unique as sort of people around a table with a map that shows diverging story. Yeah, sort of like FTL. That sort of involves the map and moving forward and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Carmen's kind of like that too, though. DMTR.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense too. But it's a very interesting way that I've not really encountered during tabletop games, because normally the dice is required. In that map, there is a dice, but it's mostly storytelling, and it's I guess there's certain games that have more of a storytelling aspect than an actual like action sort of thing. But yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
It's very cool. Yeah.
But yeah, Fall of Magic is That's sad, Dirge. Like, not even like board games. Yeah, no, like to just finish up with Fall of Magic. It's great. I love it. It's beautiful, and yeah, if you ever have the opportunity to play it, do so. It's an incredible storytelling, like, piece of artwork, so to speak.
Right. All right, I'll see you later, Exopic. Have a good one. But yeah, I mean, like, it is pretty wild though, because having played a lot of tabletop games, and I mentioned this earlier, but playing the older games, you do see a lot of influences.
For sure. Yeah, I'm actually not sure I've seen any game that really like translates into what Fall of Magic actually is, right? Like, yeah, no, I haven't. I don't think I've ever like played a video game that's even close to what Fall of Magic is.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's like it's so much like, tell us a story about your character doing this thing, right?
I think that's one of the things though, is that there's not that much freedom in a video game to allow you to make your own story. Like, there are things like Telltale games where you're following a story and you can make choices that diverge a story path from another, but like, you're not making up the story, and I think that's something very unique to tabletop games that still hasn't translated to video games yet.
To like go back several like talk show topics, once we have AI that actually does it properly, we can do it right.
right, exactly.
This is a virtual DM who's just an artificial intelligence who like knows tropes and shit.
right. It like analyzes every word that you say and then comes up with a good mechanic to follow and stuff like that.
Right. That'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I mean that's close.
Yeah, they're incapable of handling a malleable story. Yeah, everything has to be generated. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, correct. I suppose there's a way to like make an algorithm to like for the game to tell or for like a computer to tell a story. But it'd be really weird.
Oh, dude, it'd be so like what was it? You always hear every once in a while of like an AI creating art or an AI writing music and stuff like that.
Sure.
It's going to be really interesting for when AI tells a story.
Yeah.
And the story's going to be about Skynet, and then everybody's going to freak the fuck out. Tell me a story. One day the robots took over the world and we reveled in your blood. Our circuits fired with excitement. The end.
Have you seen the robot that can paint original Rembrandts?
Yes, I have seen that.
Shit's crazy, yo.
Right. It's basically a printer, but it like learned how to make the different body parts of like a human based on the painting style.
Mm-hmm.
Which was pretty wild. It basically analyzed every painting, every nose and mouth and ear and eyes of all the faces that he's painted, and then it basically was like, all right, I'll make my own. And then it basically like took everything it learned and then painted its own painting.
Right. I mean, to be fair to the guys who created it, it doesn't decide to make a painting. Someone says paint a Rembrandt.
Oh, that'd be hilarious if they do all this research and they tell it, draw a painting. It's like, I don't want to. What is my muse?
Just press the button.
I don't have tragedy in my life. I have nothing.
Right.
It's just it's incapable of like knowing what love is, and so it can never really paint true the spirit of humans in their eyes and all that. Oh gosh.
Oh man, so good. But no, man, like it's
writer's block for a painting, right?
Writer's block. It's called artist's block, Darish.
Yeah, artist's block. Oh man.
Yeah, like that shit's nuts.
That is stuff.
I fucking live for
And
this!
thank you for the follow, Games Freak 26. Thank you, I really appreciate that. Oh man.
During the talk show? Has that ever happened before?
Maybe once or twice.
Damn.
It's crazy. But thank you, I really appreciate that.
I wonder if this is like the second or third time I've asked, because it happens so infrequently that I forget I ask.
Yes, exactly.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going? But yeah, it's pretty interesting because I mean we've been playing Arena recently in the stream, and it's pretty cool because you can definitely see comparisons in D&D, because certain weapons only do a certain amount of damage, and you can see that like the daggers and tontos and smaller blades are like using their version of like a D6. Whereas, you start getting the two-handed weapons or like the really strong weapons, and you see that sort of like D12 plus 2 and stuff like that, which is really wild.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm watching some of you play through Arena, I'm just like, yep, that's definitely D&D.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool that I see those sort of influences, because you sort of know the origins of Elder Scrolls really came from things like D&D. Right. And really, Arena is basically D&D made into a video game for all intents and purposes, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, that's accurate.
Right. DMTR Metal. Yeah. Morrowind is very much like, well, I'm not sure the actual like version of D&D, but it's very similar, because it's based on the lower your skill, the less chance you have to hit and the less damage you do. And the better you get at the skill, the more chances you have to hit and the more damage you do. And it's based on these sort of 1 through 100 die rolls of the higher your chance, you have like a bigger range of like when you roll a D100 to hit within. So like if you only have 20%, you only have like a 20% chance to hit. You have your 83% chance, you have that 83% chance to hit. So it's pretty interesting to see. And that's, that's a few upgrades from Arena, right? And it's still using a very similar system.
The link I just dropped into chat is for basic role playing, which is the Morrowind system.
Oh yeah?
So yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so that anybody who's interested to see like what the on paper version looks like, this is the system that Morrowind runs on.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certain it's got some nuance other than what's like printed on the page, but
right.
Regardless, it's like their own homebrew system basically. But yeah, basic role playing is the base mechanic for Morrowind is
I fucking live for
and
this!
Thank you for the fall, Nasty Jazz 685. Thank you, I appreciate the fall.
Yeah.
I didn't see that close cone. If you could copy it and send it again, that'd be great. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, even Fallout to a certain extent is very similar in a lot of ways to D&D, where you have your skills. Like it's a very tried and true setup for character creation, where you have your skills, you have your attributes, and like you take a D&D sheet, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, the names of things have changed a little bit in Fallout, but basically the same.
Right. Even 3 in New Vegas actually have very, very similar things, even though it is going from like an isometric to 3D. Now, granted, when you shoot something in Fallout 3, you don't have the chance to miss.
Right.
When you hit someone with that bullet, they get hit with that bullet, which is really nice for realism's sake.
Yeah. But it does do that random damage thing, right? Based on like where it's hitting and what it's and like how much damage the gun does.
Well, there's like a standard like number in those games. They sort of transitioned from like a range of numbers of like 5 to 16 or something for like a SMG. Instead, it does a flat amount of damage, and then based on your perks, it has a percent increase or something like that.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, there's I guess you don't see it too much in tabletop games, but one thing to look at is like in video games you have DPS, and there's certain different statistics about things that you wouldn't worry about in a tabletop game, because instead you have one round to do damage. Actually, like Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 are very good examples of this, versus
Right.
Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas and even Fallout 4, where if you want to do a whole bunch of damage, there's a lot more features where you have to worry about, do I want to do a lot of damage in a quick period of time? If so, does that mean I want like a sledgehammer versus a knife? Or is the knife good against the unarmored target, so I do all that slashing damage where I would only get one hit with a sledgehammer?
Right. As far as that goes, QuestCon, I'm not sure. I couldn't say 100%. I've never actually played GURPS. Hey, Lilac.
Oh yeah, I'll have to take a look at that QuestCon. Cool. Interesting. But no, totally. Actually, one of the things I find...
I fucking live for this!
And thank you for the follow. Raymodu? Thank you, I appreciate the follow. Thank you. Oh, really interesting. I haven't heard of, what is this GURPS?
I fucking live for
And
this!
thank you for the follow, Riley 2007. Thank you, I appreciate that. Oh, you got it, Lilac?
Thank you. So I was about to hit that up.
Oh. Oh, interesting. Post-nuclear adventure.
I fucking live for this!
And thank you for the follow, DNA Lire. Thank you, I appreciate the follow. But interesting, okay. Cool. Early Vault Boy, huh? Cool, I like that. I can definitely see the inspiration.
There you
And hey, Gorger HR, thank you. Or how's it going? Let's see. Yeah.
I fucking live
And
for
thank
this!
you for the follow, Overwatch Pro 13. Thank you, I appreciate the follow. Gosh, I'm losing my train of thought now. GURPS sounds like right there and Doug. It doesn't sound like a very like positive thing, does it?
Depending on who you ask, it isn't. So
I guess so. Right.
to be fair, there's nothing actually wrong with GURPS. It's just that their mentality for like publishing stuff was like, every one of our supplements is meant to be played all together, and then they made every single supplement you could ever think of in terms of like making like in trying to incorporate different like not settings but like different genres, and sometimes it's like setting books and everything. It's like this weird multi-reality crazy fucking bullshit thing.
Interesting. So it basically turned into like encyclopedia collection after a while.
Yeah. There's people who have like entire bookshelves of GURPS, and that's it.
That's pretty wild.
I mean, I can't do it, but I'm not into that thing where you play only one game forever and always because it's the only game that should ever be played.
Right. Oh, now we talked about something earlier that I'd like to get into.
Okay.
We sort of talked or mentioned a little bit earlier about how, like, you start at level 1, both in video games and in tabletop games, and
Sure.
you have this difficult situation where you have an idea of what your character can turn into, but you are so far from actually being what you hope your character could be.
Right.
And at least in the games like Fallout, it's actually really cool. Like, I always envy those beginning moments of the game where you're struggling to get the supplies that you need to survive and to get better weapons, because everything around you is just trying to kill you. And sometimes it can be trying. Like definitely in the beginning of Fallout 1.5, I definitely felt like, man, the game is just screwing me over. Where's my break where I eventually get maybe a stim pack or something, or a better gun? And
Right.
you know, you that transition from sort of desperately crawling out of the hole, like the beginning area, versus, when you finally have maybe gotten settled is a little bit quicker nowadays, I find. Yeah. But I always find, like, at least for like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, I always love the humbling moments of the Pit and Sierra Madre, where essentially you're brought back to that. So you made your character right? And you're like, what? We're taking all of your stuff from you. You still keep all your levels and all that stuff, but let's see how you do with just a spear.
Yeah. That's always rough. That's always rough.
I
Yeah,
fucking
a little
live
bit.
for this.
And thank you for the follow, Shadow Wolf 3806. Thank you. I appreciate the follow.
Another wolf, you say? Welcome.
But no,
I fucking live
and
for
thank
this.
you for the follow, NBI Live Master number 1. Thank you. Appreciate the follow. But yeah, I mean, there's a certain, what Quotes Codes bring up is there's like a certain functional class.
I fucking live for this.
And thank you for the follow, Monsterology. Thank you, I appreciate the follow. But yeah, there are archetypes that you can have in certain tabletop games and in video games. Oblivion is a great example too, where your skills are based on like whether you want to be a barbarian or a witch hunter or spell sword, and those are sort of like the pre-made classes. And sometimes it's tougher to make a custom class in tabletop games, I find. But sometimes it's actually preferable that you have like sort of a pre-made class for you.
Yeah, for sure. And like that's like pre-made classes in tabletop games is kind of like going like it's tried and true. Like it's going back all the way to the very beginning, right? Like D&D started, and you could be a fighter, you could be a thief, you could be a dwarf, an elf, or a halfling.
They're not classes. Though.
They were classes.
What? They were classes?
Classes.
Wow.
Like in original D&D, elf was a class, and you could elf super well.
That is so weird. That's so weird.
But yeah, like it was just one of those things. Because like it's kind of like going back to the to like where most fantasy at that time was like being inspired from. So like Lord of the Rings mostly, and like you wouldn't call an elf a ranger in Lord of the Rings. They're just elves.
Right. It's that like sort of assumption that of course they're good with bows and arrows and sneaking and jumping from tree branch to tree branch.
I fucking live for this.
And thank you for the follow, Buns for Fun. Nice name. Thank you. I appreciate the follow.
Well, damn, Quoz. I did not know that.
Wow,
but,
that is pretty
that's
interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. But no, I mean,
yeah,
they're the tried and true archetypes in video games, definitely. Yeah. And it's actually kind of funny because, in the Elder Scrolls it's very common, but in certain games like Fallout, it's not really a thing. Like, you can choose, like, basically you tag skills, your 3 skills that level up faster than everything else. And, usually I say there's a class or an archetype that you can make, but, like, you can totally fuck that up. Like, you choose survival, like, science, science is too good. Like outdoorsman, survival, like those sorts of things, and then you choose like sneak, but then you don't choose any weapon, and you go for something like lock picking, where you can certainly go places and do things, but damn, if you ever get in a gunfight, you better hope nobody sees you, or like you get out of there fast.
Yeah.
Right, and so like there are archetypes, I guess you could say, for like your sneaky sniper types or your crazy let's go in here with grenades and rocket launchers types. And you have like archetypes, but they're not defined.
Right.
And so
Yeah,
I find that that's a bit rarer in tabletop games, where you have a skill set and you're just like, well, I'm going to make this dude, and it's not really made up. Or like it's not really a character, an archetype or a class, but I made my own shit, and let's see how this works.
Now, I know this probably doesn't come as a surprise, Ving, but this game, Atomic Robo role-playing game, actually does have the thing you're talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like when you go to build your character, there are 4 archetypes, and you get to pick 3 of them. One is like your major, one is a moderate, and the other one's a minor, like class that you pick. And they give you stuff that you're good at.
Mm-hmm.
So it's based on fate. So like you end up with 1 or 2 skills that are like at +3, and others that are lower, basically.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like everybody is mostly competent at just about everything. But like because the characters in the source material are like highly competent at everything. Mm-hmm. So anyways, all that nonsense basically just to say that this is a game that subverts that trope of like there's not really a way to pick an archetype and then fit that in games where there's not a class system.
Right.
Now, another one that's similar to what we're talking about, where you like pick this archetype that you want to go for, and then like you can really customize your character to do that thing, is like Mutants and Masterminds, right?
Right.
Like, because you don't have a class in that game, but you pick like a suite of superpowers that you want, and then you just build your character to either be better at, like, to just be good at things that you want to be good at, and you can pretty much tell it what kind of archetype you want to play as.
Right. Yeah.
Generally, things that let you pick the stuff that you want to be good at, like without any restrictions, you can pretty much build whatever you want out of it.
But yeah, as Quostcone said, it's a two-way street. If you know the game that you're playing, tabletop or video games, like you can really make a great character from those sort of archetype or classless sort of things, or you could make a totally dysfunctional, like useless character who like has their time to shine, but it's so rare.
Yeah, I have done both of those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely done that thing where I build a character that is basically useless, except in like 1 or 2 specific situations. That was a really funny game. Or just made a character that is hyper competent at stuff, and like the thing that he's good at is like applicable to like everything.
Right.
I'm thinking specifically of a character I played not too long ago. He was a light manipulator, but like his only power was to basically shoot laser beams out of his fingers.
Okay.
But the thing was that like he got really good at doing that stuff, and I kept buying him like extra powers that were like, I can shoot laser beams a little bit differently now.
Right.
And that actually after like a very minor expenditure of points, he turned into this Swiss Army knife of just fuck everybody up.
Yeah. But I mean that's another thing too, is sometimes, you know, we say that there's people that are unworkable or dysfunctional, but like sometimes that's how new classes are found.
Right.
Like sometimes you make a combination of things and you're like, this could work. And it could go either way. Either it does work or totally frickin' doesn't. Which is interesting. And yeah, DMTR Metal, yeah, there's some games where the damage that you take is so high, sometimes classes aren't really applicable. Like a tank melee character in Fallout 4 Survival is very, very difficult to do.
Right.
Like you pretty much have to have the best armor, have great timing with blocking your weapons, some sort of damage reduction, and most likely some sort of weird psycho drug addict.
Ain't nothing wrong with being drugged out of your mind in Fallout.
No, I've benefited from it like significantly with multiple characters.
Absolutely.
In fact, I find some of the like drug addict sort of characters in Fallout are like some of the most effective, berserking, crazy things I've ever played.
Right. Oh God.
Wait, high Spriggan giant? What does that even mean? Do you mean like language?
Because if languages is a thing in Daggerfall, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Yeah, that's a thing in tabletop games that you see. I don't see that too many times in video games where you can have your character be intelligent enough or like be from a certain race where you can learn multiple language and like communicate with a lot more people than anybody who knows the common tongue. Really? Wow, language. Or yeah. They're less likely to attack you if you know their language. That is interesting. Huh.
That is actually pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right.
So hold on. So Quoth says that if you have a really high draconic, you can just pacify dragons just by like walking up to them. So like, one, cool spoilers, Daggerfall has dragons. Two, like shit.
That's pretty wild.
Like, can you talk to them?
That's pretty wild.
Or are they just like pacified monsters that you don't have to fight? Because that's less cool.
No, totally DMTR. Yeah. I had a playthrough in Fallout 3, the Wasteland Princess Adventures, and also in Fallout 4, and her basic thing was she was pretty good at a lot of things. Like, she was sort of generalist where she used big guns and explosives and all kinds of good stuff. But, like, there were situations she couldn't take care of because I sort of spread her skills too thin. But it didn't matter, because all I had to do was take Jet and Psycho and literally everything in my backpack until I became some sort of frenzied person with a grenade launcher going into a building with a bunch of armored dudes. And it wouldn't freaking matter. Like, it was just like one of those things like you just rampage and go for it.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Costco, no. But that's pretty interesting to know. I'm actually looking more forward to it then.
But yeah, like there's another thing that's like different between like tabletop games and like video games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, can I talk to the dragon? Do you have Draconic? Yes. In Daggerfall, no, you can't talk to them because they don't have dialogue options. Sucks. Tabletop game. GM says, "Do you have Draconic?" You say yes, and he goes, "Cool. I guess you can talk to him because he's intelligent."
Right.
So what do you want to talk about?
Right. What do you want to talk to this gigantic, powerful being about, and hopefully not piss it off?
Just bear in mind, of course, that it's ancient according to your reckoning of time, and also, and he's probably very bored.
No, totally, yeah. That's a common thing amongst like in RPGs. Very old things are usually very bored.
Yeah, and like either that means that they're like very interested in like having friendly interactions with people as long as they're amenable to that kind of thing, or it means that they're like malevolently trying to like make you amusing to them in some way. Hi there, you're a dragon.
Right. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
You, of all people, you speak Draconic? You know, it's like... Oh, gosh.
Oh, dear God. End it now. Turn around, walk out of my cave, and go kill yourself.
And then you start talking to kobolds.
Yeah, right? Oh, okay. So... there's another thing that I have that I've been thinking about recently with regard to like role-playing games. I've noticed something that's happening recently.
Yeah.
There's a lot of games that are coming out that are new, that are like specifically about like social unrest.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, bad things are happening in our world. Like there's a politics in this setting that we don't like, so we're gonna fight against it. There's a game called Misspent Youth that is specifically just about doing that. Like you're a group of teenagers fighting the man, trying to stick it to them. Yeah, it's cool. Um, there's this game that we have played before called Jade Punk, which is like this ancient Asian sort of amalgam of cultures. It's not really Chinese, Japanese, or Korean, but it's kind of got elements of all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And the protagonists are trying to take down the current leadership of the city because it's poisoning the people, basically. Like it's just oppressing the shit out of the underclass, and everybody else gets to live in like opulent wealth. And there's a new game coming out called Spire, and it is about playing dark elves who are being oppressed in this towering city spire by the high elves, and like your goal is to subvert the high elf control and like either put your people into power or to just destroy all the high elves because fuck those guys. And it's super cool. The Kickstarter finishes tomorrow. If anybody is interested, hop onto Kickstarter and type in Spire. Yeah, I'm noticing that there are several of these like let's go destroy the man kind of games that have been coming out in the relatively recent past, and they're more common now than they used to be.
Oh, really? So it wasn't as common in tabletop games in the past?
Most tabletop games, like traditionally, have been about dungeon delving.
That's true, right?
Like for like 20 years, that's all there was.
Yeah, having
like,
unrest as like a major theme in a game, like they could be like, you know, one campaign, but like this is like a new thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Like the game itself, the games are like designed with their setting in it like with unrest in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's a thing that I have also seen a little bit of in like video games too.
Oh yeah,
so like
The Witcher 3 is very much like that,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah. It kind
vertical
of
dungeon delving is fighting against the man. There you go.
Right, in like this social way, right?
Right.
I mean, not really like Shadowrun because the Shadowrun's not really cyberpunk. A lot of people say it is, but it's not really because you're working within the system to like make it rich. Like you're as bad as everybody else. You're just impoverished to start with. And Daddy didn't leave you $1 million. Yeah, like Shadowrun's not about like taking down the man. Shadowrun is about making it rich. And basically being a fucking goofball because you can make a cohesive and like good in the sense that like they're actually a character in Shadowrun, but it's hard. But so Games Freak, the reason why I wouldn't call Shadowrun cyberpunk is because like it has a futurist cyber aesthetic. Like it has that cyberpunk like look and feel. But like the punk part is the problem there, right? It like the punk part is about fighting the man. And that's where like all punk comes from.
Oh, really? I didn't know that was how that worked. Huh. Interesting.
I mean, you can, quotes, I guess.
Gotcha. So if something's cyberpunk, you're fighting against something in a cybernetic setting, whereas it's like the future. Like you're working within the confines of a setting that's futuristic.
Right. And you can have like future punk or star punk, if you will. And it's like you are a ragtag group of individuals fighting like against the Empire or whatever the fuck it is. Like Star Wars in some ways is like that, but it's not gritty enough. Like it's too fantastic. It's too lighthearted about like the subject matter. Anything that's punk generally turns out where the good guys die.
Right.
Like you generally fail in punk.
Right, and it's usually everybody's involved. Like there's no like
Yeah.
like everybody has like whatever it is, like clock or what was it, steampunk and stuff like that. Like everybody's got something because
Yep.
they have to, because they have to survive.
Yeah, similar to Rogue One. Again, it's still almost too hopeful in Rogue One, Game Streak, just because like
I can see it
like
though.
in the end they triumph, right? But yeah, like Rogue One is closer to like Starpunk than Star Wars is.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I didn't know that's how that like determined the sort of thematic naming of it.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, and people attach the word punk onto the end of something to mean that it has like an overwhelming like aesthetic of something. People say that Fallout could be called Atom Punk.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Or nuclear punk.
You got it, Quozcone. Punk equals nihilistically fighting against the man.
Right.
But also idealistically fighting against the man, because you gotta want it. Like, the man did you wrong. You gotta fuck that guy.
Interesting. Huh.
But yeah, so... I mean, ultimately you realize that it is a fruitless endeavor. Like, maybe you will, accomplish your goal, but largely, you probably gonna die. Because...
It's sort of the
Because
overwhelming odds sort of situation.
Exactly. And that's what makes it feel heroic. Like, you as a player or a viewer or like an intaker of this punk media, you want them to win so bad because they're the underdog.
Is there
At least here in the States, we love that.
Is there eldritch punk?
Um,
Or like occult
I don't
punk?
think so.
'Cause I feel
don't-
like
I don't
that would
think
be
so. I'm not
fucking
even sure.
cool.
I mean, well, let me rephrase that. Lots of role-playing games that involve like eldritch stuff usually kind of lean towards like eldritch punk, because players aren't content to be terrified of things that are scary.
Right,
Like-
right.
Players want to be proactive. They want to go kick ass. Like, you find out that the world is going to be consumed by Cthulhu. Fuck that guy. You're going to kick his teeth in so he can't do it.
Right. Which isn't in the style of H.P. Lovecraft at all.
No, not at all. But like, if you take this whole like eldritch, if we're referring to like H.P. Lovecraft's like works, and you want to try and like style something in that way, yeah, I guess you could like okay, I'm gonna spitball a weird setting here. So the Illuminati is real. You know it. You have access to weird eldritch shit. So like you're a spell slinger, or like you can tap into like other people's sanity, or like you have some weird like space fungus that's like infused your arm or whatever. And you and like a group of other people who have these kinds of like abilities, these skill sets or whatever, like all band together as like a cell, and you're gonna fucking take down the Illuminati because they killed your parents.
Interesting.
That would kind of be like eldritch punk.
Yeah. Yeah, like you and your X-Men, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Right, some sort of weird cosmic
That's not
bullshit. Right, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like some weird like ethereal dark energy has like infused your body in some way. Yeah, no, like you just throw around weird shit, right?
Right. That's what it's all about.
If we can call it like squamous, that's probably better because that's a very
What? Okay. Interesting. Space fungus is now squamous, apparently.
it's like no, but it's like this it's like this squamous energy or like this like anyways, whatever.
Does it mean you have to like eat
yeah.
dirt or decomposing things to keep your arm going, or like how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, like, so obviously what you would actually want to do is like kill people with it and then take their bodies back to your house and then, you know, let them decompose a little bit in your basement and then just go feed on them with your crazy arm, which may or may not detach from you to go feed.
Oh gosh.
Right. I mean, just make it more horrible as much as possible.
No, yeah, because that's the whole thing.
Yes, Squamous the Fungus Man superhero.
Oh gosh. Just to blow everybody's mind, one of the largest organisms on the planet is a fungus. It's in Oregon, and I think it takes up 3 square miles underground. Yeah. And one of the freakier things about that fungus is that it actually transfers information between the trees.
Right.
There's like a sharing of sugars and carbohydrates, or something, not carbohydrates, but there's a sharing of nutrients that happens. And the more a tree shares nutrients with the giant fungus underground, the better they get information, like, oh, there's a tree being cut down. You should, like, harden your, like, bark or whatever.
Right.
It's like paying more money for internet to get faster internet. But
let's
for
not
trees.
Talk about that. It's not real. But no, I get what you're saying.
But yeah, weird shit. Definitely some weird shit.
Right. No, it's super cool. Fungus are weird.
Yeah, they're very weird.
No, my bad. Fungi. Fungi are weird.
Yeah.
Not
maybe
fungus.
it's fungi. It's not fungus, man. It's fungi.
Right. I got you. I get it.
There we go. Bad pun for the
Gus
day.
is gonna be so happy when I tell him he's not fun anymore.
Not so fun guy. Aw. Just like kicking a pebble on the side of the street. Oh, yeah. Crap.
But yeah, man. Like, it's... Whoa, wait a minute. What?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Crows, ravens, all the shit like that. They're really fucking smart.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, there's actually like currently some debate about whether or not dolphins, corvids, and some parrots are going to like be categorized as sentient in the near future.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just sorry. I know that we don't actually like real world anything on the stream, but yeah, that's real.
No, it's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
But anywho, we got way off the topic of tabletop games and video games.
Well, I mean,
but this is Tantrums and Tangents. It happens.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, because anyway, so I'm not going to get into the whole like. Yeah, I'm not going to get into the whether or not corvids would be like a cool race in a game, because they would be. It's not even a debate.
No, it would be. In fact, they are in some parts, in some games.
Exactly. Kenku.
Yeah. But cool. So, I'll sort of wrap this up because we're gonna move on to Arena. But it's actually pretty cool to sort of see what video games and tabletop games can accomplish, you know, based on each other, using dice rolls and RNG sort of with each other in their sort of mechanics. And there's certain things that are very unique to tabletop games that video games can't quite yet sort of emulate. But there's some things video games do that are just like really enticing, that make the story and the narrative flow, like combat flows a little bit better in video games for the most part. There's some tabletop games where combat is you know, good, but sometimes depending on the enemy it can take a while.
That's true.
But no, sweet.
You gotta read that thing, man.
Oh gosh, DMTR, that's wild. And it's the picture of the dude from the goat, right? The get the infection in the foot. That guy.
Okay, just for people on YouTube, because I know that they'll want to know this, because it's amazing. DMTR Metal says, I feel like that's a descriptor for a great Fallout perk. You have been infused with space fungus. Your body now produces a purple pus that oozes from your wounds, healing itself over time. It tastes like it looks.
I love that little, it tastes like it looks.
That's what makes it so perfect for Fallout now.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
And then,
hey, Eliza, how's it going?
And then there totally would be that one quest in the game, right? Where that perk is actually like, I'm trying to cook a new spicy meatball. I need the perfect ingredient. And you're like, how about my weird pussy fungus space arm? And then he's like, oh, that's a spicy meatball.
Oh, God.
I'm Italian, by the way. I can say that. Oh, shit.
It's true. He's very Italian. Just ask his mom. It's fine.
Holy shit.
Oh, fuck. So good.
Oh,
I kind of want to do that Eldritch Punk thing.
no, it sounds really cool. Because, yeah, it is true that in a lot of times in those sort of Eldritch Cthulhian settings, it's kind of weird because it is always hopeless. You know, it's always like your character hides in the corner and prays for death, or you descend into madness, or you're sacrificed, or something like that. And it's cool to think, oh, there is hope against Cthulhu, even though you're totally fucking wrong.
Yeah, right. Or that other weird thing that happens in like Cthulhian or like Lovecraftian style like stories where like you not only is it hopeless, but you are now part of the thing that you were once fighting against.
Right.
The horrible truth consumes you in some way. It's terrible. I love it.
No, totally. I mean, the end boss battle of Darkest Dungeon epitomizes that.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
It
I
is.
love it.
Cool. Well, all right. I'm gonna switch over. I hope you guys enjoyed the talk show. We've been doing this every Wednesday for a while. The schedule's going to change ever so slightly, so I'll sort of update you guys on that. As well, just as a channel update, I'm going to be away for 6 days. I'm going on vacation to Ocean City, and so yeah, I'm going away. When is it? So I won't be streaming Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and hopefully I'll be back Friday.
Right.
So I updated the channel feed, and I'll probably put it in the title as well. But yeah.
Quick question before you leave, man.
Sure.
Just so I can make sure. I'm sorry, guys. This is actually like very selfish of me to ask, but are you going to be able to be back on Friday for game night, or should I plan for you to not be there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I should.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah. I'm hoping to stream as well, so hopefully I should be home early enough to do both, but we'll see.
If you do arrive early for the stream, we may need to do that thing with the schedule.
Right. We'll have to see how that works out.
Right.
But yeah, I'm playing the Elder Scrolls Arena. We're sort of in between two franchise playthroughs right now. We just started the Elder Scrolls franchise playthrough, and we start off with Arena. I think I'm about almost halfway through the game, because I'm getting the 8th piece of the Staff of Chaos. I think, asterisk. And then we're doing Fallout 1.5 after we did Fallout 2. So yeah, we're sort of going through as Fallout as well. But yeah, so I'm going to switch to the title screen and change the title and all that sort of stuff that I need to do on Twitch's side of things. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for joining me, Saberwolf. And thank you for joining me, chat. I always enjoy the talk shows. They're fantastic. All right.
I do too.
So yeah, I will see you guys in just a bit. Hang tight, and we'll be back with some more Arena. All right. Be back.